All right, this is Kevin for the movie-going experience marker.
I gotta have the martini.
Oh.
Look, I'm in a different location. This is where back when we did, the audience would know because that when you used to record here, we were just doing audio. So I'm sitting in the seat that you used to sit at.
Oh yeah.
So it's a little different. But I figured we'd change it up a little because it's a bit of a different segment. So
Well, it's a good location that you picked because it's right behind you is a movie projector, so you don't see those old-fashioned ones anymore.
Oh yeah.
There's the edge of it, so you're not going to see it fully. Sorry, audience.
But they can take a look at the lovely 16 millimeter. I think they call it a sync block. It's basically if you had like multiple pieces of film you wanted to keep in sync as you're editing, you run it through there, and it actually has a little frame counter on it. And the audio would also be on a piece of magnetic film stock, and you could run that through there, and it actually has a little like tape head, so you could hear kind of a preview of the sound. I paid less for it, I think, than probably the scrap metal value of it. I don't remember what I paid for it, but I remember it fit, I think, in a large flat rate shipping box, and I bid on it like the lowest amount, and I got it, and I was like, wow, that you don't find that every day.
I mean, you're probably the only person I know who's covered the production aspect of film, like all within his own apartment with these little, like miniature versions of all the equipment that's necessary.
Yeah, it's like a little museum, and I think it's good, even if you don't have the best of each thing or you don't have every single thing. If you could find something and use it as a display piece to talk about, or even use it in production. I got this thing to use, not to just be a paperweight. That's film is quite expensive to actually record stuff on, but if I ever do any project on film, then I think it will help with working on that.
Hello and welcome to Moviehouse Mystics, where the magic of movies come to life. I'm Kevin Gainey.
And I'm Koda Yule. So, Kevin, this is a bit of a different segment you had an idea for. We're not reviewing a specific film today. What did you have in mind exactly?
I thought we'd just have an episode about the experience of going to the movies. I mean, it's a big experience, and I think that unfortunately, the industry is taking a huge hit, and we don't know where the future is going with it. Not exactly an optimistic one. So I hope that maybe with this little discussion right over here, we can reinvigorate kind of the magic of going to the movies.
I really love that concept. I think that they're trying to do some stuff to get people in the door. They're trying these kind of like dine-in experiences and stuff, but they are forgetting kind of the basic stuff that everybody fell in love with every time they went to the theater. The snack bar, the picking a seat, when the lights come down and the curtains widen and you get that nice letterbox and the film projector starts up. That magic already exists, and they're trying to reinvent the wheel.
I totally know what you mean. I love these luxury movie theaters. One that I would point out when I was living in Boston was the Chestnut Hill Superlux. Have you ever been to that one?
I haven't been to that one, and I know like the Alamo Draft House. I think you had sent me a thing. They opened a place in Seaport, and it looks interesting. But I haven't necessarily. I've done where you pick you have to like reserve your seat ahead of time before I've done, and it was kind of a larger seat, but it wasn't kind of the whole like dine-in bottle service, whatever some of these really kind of Cadillac theaters are.
I mean, I don't even know if I call it Cadillac because I think that, is Cadillac a superior car in the end, or is it just a visual status of luxury?
Well, that's my point is I kind of see this as a visual kind of luxury thing and a bit of a gimmick. But I haven't attended one of those proper. So if you like them, I'm not going to say that it's a facade. But I think I don't know. Do you think it improves the movie going experience?
Here's my thoughts on it. So I loved going to the Superlux when I was living there. In fact, I was living in Chestnut Hill right at the end of the street where there's that whole shopping complex, and I saw a lot of flicks over there. And it was pretty damn cool to be able to sit in your throne and have someone bring you a menu and you'd order like a burger or a salad or even like steak tips. I mean, there was the whole distinction between the front rows, the front few rows, and then the higher rows back behind you. And the ones in the higher rows, you got the option of being given a blanket, and you got the expanded menu, which included the steak tips and more that I was referring to. But it's really great, and I remember one of my cousins, her husband was commenting about how they took the kids to see their movies over there, and he made the remark, I don't know if the kids are aware that there are movie theaters that you can go to where you just sit down with a bag of popcorn and a soda, and that's it.
That is nuts to me, but I guess it's true. So what film did you see there? Or do you not remember the film because you were too busy chowing down on the juicy steak tips?
Oh, that's a terrible thing to include in your business. Like, you go see a movie and then you forget which movie you saw, not because of some beverages you had, but because your food was so good. I don't know if it's a good business model, but
If it gets people in the door and they're spending money, it's a good business model.
yeah, that's at least the bare minimum. I do remember plenty of the movies I saw there, which included the Incredibles sequel, Knives Out. Just before the pandemic, I saw the what was it? The World War I movie 1917.
Would you think that trying to see something that's like really heavy plot driven, pick a film I don't know, The Sting or something where you really have to focus, or do you think this is an experience that's better for those kind of movies that are, you can kind of not, miss a few lines of dialogue here, or you're getting kind of just the visual stimulation from some of the action?
No, not at all. I mean, to be fully invested in the movie that you're watching, yeah, totally. You can totally be invested and not be distracted by the food or anything else like that. It's
Wow.
it's just as good as going to the regular movies. It's just a little more expensive. But one of my fears is that if we keep going down this path, then suddenly going to the movies will be considered a luxurious experience once in a while. But it's already pretty pricey to begin with, because movie tickets can go for as high as like at least $20.
Yeah, and I think also the trouble is some of these theaters are trying to copy the model, but they didn't change anything. So they do have like the ticket reservation, and maybe they sell some more food than just a hot dog or something at the snack bar, but it's not really all that much of an improved experience. But the price tag represents probably that they think it's equivalent, and people are going to come back and it's going to be the same experience, which it wouldn't be. You're just charging more for some. It's kind of like Mr. Krabs with his Krabby Land, where it's all it's like this. Come on, kids, and it's just like a broken down mop bucket and stuff taped together.
It's something. I mean, but it goes to show you that right now we are potentially experiencing a generational shift away from the movie theaters. It's crazy. It used to be that 100 years ago, starting going to the movies, it wasn't just the main feature you were seeing. You saw a whole variety over there. That's how you got all your visual news.
That is true. The newsreels, people may not be aware of this, especially younger people, that they would have newsreels that would show before a film. And even before that, you had vaudeville, and it wouldn't necessarily just be a film that the theater's showing. They're showing a full-on show, and maybe one night they show it film, or it's even part of the show itself.
Yeah, and the fear is that now it's being transformed into a luxury that not everybody can afford, and it's done only once in a while. And the unfortunate reality is that the pandemic kind of exacerbated this, because suddenly we're releasing everything via streaming, and it was much more convenient to watch your movie directly at home. And I don't like where this is going, because there are plenty of recently released movies that came out through these streaming services, and I didn't enjoy the experience as much as I enjoyed the movies, because there were so many opportunities for me to just pause it and get up and like doom scroll on my phone, not be fully invested in the movie. It's also just the idea that you're watching it at home either alone, or if you're watching it with people, it's like how many other people are going to be there. It's no different than watching TV nowadays.
And I have a criticism that I have had for over probably 10 years now at this point, and you hit the nail right on the head with what you said. It's basically like watching TV, but I kind of feel like the theaters shifted in that direction when they started moving towards all digital projection, and you did get maybe the enhanced sound system or something, but I found that for me, I didn't, if it was going to be watching something on digital projection and the rest of the experience is meh, I'll just watch it at home.
It's interesting because you obviously can tell the difference right away. I mean, the example that I think of is when you finally saw Jaws. You said the only way you would see it would be on 35 millimeter, which they had at the Coolidge Corner Theater. This is also an establishment that's worth talking about, by the way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I grew up watching Jaws mainly through VHS and DVD and streaming and however we have it nowadays. But I could tell watching it at the Coolidge, the lighting was so much brighter, and it was just easier on the eyes, because while you have all the pixels and everything, they're very accurate with their details. It's very sharp. You're probably more familiar with this as a cinematographer, but about how the impact it is on our eyes is just everything on 35 millimeter just looks better.
Yeah. And in a sense, every viewing experience is unique, because a piece of film running through the machine, it's getting little abrasions, it's getting little imperfections. If they're doing changeovers, the changeover can be perfect, or it might be a little wonky, and each experience is there for a unique, unrepeatable event. Sure, somebody could make the argument that a projector, as it heats up and something, that it's a little, but it's not like you are contributing to the patina that is on the next screening of it by watching it, and then if a scratch got introduced in yours, then it's on that print for the rest of its life. And to me, that is, it's kind of like people that really don't like reading on a Kindle or something. They prefer the actual book, and people have their own reasons for it. But part of it, I think, is that piece of physical media is right there. A piece of film, you don't need a piece of electrical equipment to see an image. We talked about that in the Bad Times at the El Royale episode, where they're holding up the film and looking at the pictures. That is so cool to me that it's there. Yeah, you're not going to be able to play it as a film if you don't have a projector, but you still could see something.
And that was another thing that that I wanted to talk about. You just referenced was about a book being tangible media. It's kind of like the 35 millimeter, when you get the little markers and everything as time goes by, it's part of its own history, that reel's history. Kind of like if you get those really old books that you'd open and they get that musky smell that comes out, and the paper is just got a more sepia like a color to it or something like that. But it's part of it, and it is.
Yeah, I think the book is a perfect analogy, and to me, it's like that. To some people, they have a different view on it, but for me, I really feel like it's just such a cool thing. All right, so we're supposed to have some questions for each other, I think. One that I was wondering about for you, we've seen a couple films in the theater, but I'm not sure if I influenced the seating. Where is your like preferred? If you could pick any seat in a theater, have the whole theater to yourself. Where is it? And also, is it maybe a different place if the theater's more full? Do you have a different preference?
Well, I think it varies. My mother actually likes sitting in the very front row because the reason that she got to that preference was when she, my brother Andrew, and me went to go see the Bond movie Skyfall. By the time we got there, we had our tickets, but the only seats that were available were in the first few rows. And first, you're rolling your eyes at that. It's like, oh, this is going to be, craning on the neck. We're having to look up at all this. But it was pretty cool just to be able to see it. It just made it seem grander and higher. And I think that's exactly what you'd be looking for in an exciting movie like James Bond. But I really don't care where I go. I mean, I'm generally the type of guy who would like to go higher up so I can get maybe the best view possible or something. That's just me. How about you?
Yeah, viewing wise, some people want to get in the very, very middle of everything, and I don't. Well, partially, I know I'm probably going to have to get up at some point, and I don't want to crawl over a bunch of people. So generally, my ideal placement's going to be on one of the aisles, but the more center aisles, not some wing off to the side. But also, I think it's part of the experience too is that being in a different seat, if you then go watch the movie again, pick a different seat, see if you notice things differently, see how it feels. Maybe the sound was mixed in a way that you weren't getting the full effect in whatever seat you're in. And I'm sure some sound mixers would be horrified that I suggested that, but I just suggested that. Yeah, I don't necessarily, and I would generally probably not prefer having to crane my neck the entire film, but I think it was Blade Runner at Coolidge Corner, I think was the one that I saw, and the only seats that were available were very much front and center, and it was a really cool experience.
Now, that's something I got to see on the big screen. I mean, you talked about that enough, about how Blade Runner is one of your favorite movies. And I just got to think about how great that's going to look on 35 millimeter film, especially with the urban lighting and even some of the advertising in that movie, like the giant Coca-Cola ad on the giant screen over there. That's very weird when it becomes, advertising becomes part of the merit of the movie. But
that cyberpunk aesthetic is really caught on, and I gotta say, I think that movie defined a lot of what we know today as cyberpunk. It really created such a beautiful, with the neon and the reflections of the rain and puddles on the ground. You got to see it on film.
It's like an updated version of those noir movies, like those gritty noir. It's just like, hi, I'm Sham Spade. I got a cigarette out of the corner of my mouth, and I got a fedora on. Rah.
Yeah, it is in a way kind of like that, but that one I don't necessarily know that I'd want to sit front and center again for because I've already experienced it. So, pick a different one. But, yeah.
One of the other things I want to talk about with sound as well, that's occurring to me right now, is that you could just tell when you watch certain movies at home that one sequence of sound over there was meant for the movie theater, not for your TV at home. I don't know if you could point certain ones out in a movie off the top of your head, but for me, one of them comes from the Lord of the Rings movie where Gollum, I think it's The Return of the King, where Gollum, is arguing with himself, and he just tells himself to hush. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that sound in the movie theater, but it also doesn't sound as great on my TV screen.
Yeah, I don't. I generally, if I'm going to be watching something that I've already seen at home, I'm just going to accept that the sound's not going to be the same experience. But there have been films, specifically the one I could think of. I saw Gravity back in 2013, I think it was. And that one I saw on digital, smaller format IMAX, and the audio is the best part, I thought. I thought that, it was just mixed so perfectly for that setup, and the experience, I really couldn't have imagined that working nearly as well as it did if they didn't have such a great sound image. It really was made the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not going to sound as great when we're doom scrolling on our phones and we get it like, oh, here's a clip from a really great movie years and years ago, and I'm just getting an obscured version on is it the 9:16 or 16:9? Which one's the vertical?
9:16.
Yeah, watching the 9:16 version of it over there, saying, we didn't get to see most of it, but I hope that doesn't become a part of our movie-going experience.
Well, it's as its own format kind of caught on. There are shows now that are produced for that format, and they are delivered through an app on the phone. And I don't see anything wrong with that, because that is the way that they planned the show to go. It wasn't necessarily something that was many years older, and then somebody that wasn't the original artist that contributed to the film that then made decisions about how to crop it, or that's the thing. If you've watched a movie on TV, even that, they put up the warning beforehand that this movie's been adapted for a smaller screen format, so the experience may be a little different.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you'd think, duh, but no, that people want to know. The people that made the film want that to be known, that then somebody doesn't go and be like, oh, yeah, I saw that film, and wow, it was really, the framing was horrible. It's like, what are you talking about? That's one of the best shot movies I've ever seen. And they're like, oh, well, I was watching it on Turner Classic. Okay, well, maybe that was what happened. Then somebody else changed.
Just obscured it.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that DVDs used to have the option between widescreen and full screen? That used to be a thing you had to worry about. If someone said, I picked up the movie for you today, you're like, did you get it in widescreen? It's like, you got it in full screen. Damn it.
It's not really wide, because you're just, I guess it's wider than if then you cropped in the sides and didn't scale it to the full TV. It's like when HD TV first came out, some of the commercials that would show were still formatted for the standard definition widescreen, but it would only fill up the 4:3 frame, because that they shot it in standard definition widescreen, which was really just cutting off the top and the bottom.
Yeah, I remember having to explain to one of my uncles. It's like, why are there 2 bars there? Can you get rid of them? I'm like, no, we can't.
That's another thing I do want to point out about the movie experience in a theater, that even with digital projection generally, I mean, a lot of places probably don't build the theater for it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised, but the matting, that the curtains you'd have before the main previews, it would have, whatever their, thank you for Regal rewards, and then the roller coaster thing. And then it would be dark, and the curtains would go back, and now the screen was a different shape, because that there was actually a physical piece of matting. It wasn't just like, I'm not going to use part of the screen that's already there. I'm going to use the curtains to actually make a new screen.
Yeah.
And that's magical to me, that moment that before that projector would fire up, the film projector, and having the curtains get in whatever position they need to be for the movie, and then you get that just kind of the flicker that your eyes take a second to adjust to, and then you're watching the film at that point.
That's what I love the most, is the moment when you could just tell it's part of the experience. You get into the theater, you find your seat, you sit down. It's kind of well lit, but then when the previews start, it gets just a little darker. You go through like maybe, 10, 15 minutes of previews. But then when the feature is about to start, how it all goes completely dark. There's the gradual, decrease in light, and just the
little
silence.
The little light strips on the stairs so people don't die. That's like the only light in the room, and it's just kind of emitting a slight glow. It's not
That's
like
part
terrifying.
of it as well, because it reminds you of where you are, and there's the shared silence of everybody in the group around you, because I think that's usually the sign that you're experiencing something great, is that when you get like, I don't know how many people together and you're all sharing the same silence, your eyes are all on the same thing. There's a first for everyone. And do you, Koda, at least remember the first movie that you saw in theaters?
I don't. I have a few kind of that I can think of uh, Lilo and Stitch, and I have, much later on, but a vivid memory of seeing one of the X-Men, I think it was possibly First Class movies, and that was when they were still projecting on, there were two main kind of theater complexes around where I was in Albany that we would go to. One was all digital and one still had film. And that one, I just remember that, as I was saying, with the lights coming down and the flicker and then your eyes adjusting, I really just, that was the moment I was like, oh, okay, I really am seeing the difference between what a film projection looks like than something that was digitally projected or shot on film and then digitally projected, or just all digital. So those are kind of the more vivid experiences I can think of. How about you?
I think the first movie I went to see was the original Lion King. So
Good one.
yeah, at least that's what I remember. So I know that my dad said, he was saying, "Hey, I'm taking you to see the Lion King," and I think it was I was aware of it because of the VHS promos and previews that we got through the other Disney DVDs, maybe through like Aladdin.
Coming soon to Disney theaters, The Lion King.
Yeah.
Aladdin.
I thought for some reason maybe my dad was taking me to like the animation place. Like you remember like in the clips of this, like, okay, we're showing how we animated the lions, and it's like I thought I was actually being brought to see a lion, but it definitely it changed the game for me. I mean, that's quite a movie to start off with.
That's an interesting thing too. Is how young were you? Did you understand? It sounds like you had a concept of animation, but like younger children don't necessarily have that. That's why you can go to Disney and meet the characters, and it's like they are the characters. They don't have that differentiation.
It was I was about 3 years old at that point. So, what do you get at the concession stand?
Oh, you got to get popcorn. That is a absolute must.
Oh yeah.
And we'll get to. I have a question about popcorn for later too, but the other favorite snacks, definitely Bunch of Crunch.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah.
If they don't have Bunch of Crunch, Milk Duds.
Got to tear open the box too. Not a bag, a box.
Oh yeah. That is a very good point, Kevin. Is that some of the theaters now, it's like they sell just the same packages that you would get in the store. It's like, no, the whole thing is that there's the little boxes of the different candies, and they're all the same shape and size, and you have them and you get them at the theater. Like, that was the thing. And now sometimes it's not like that, and I'm like, no, I won't even buy the candy at that point. You gotta be the box.
It's like getting something at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it's part of the whole experience. It's like, that is the format for this place. This is how you get that thing. Even if you get it somewhere else, it is this way in this place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. But what else, snack wise, do you have, or like drink wise even?
Well, I obviously got to start with popcorn, but if it's not popcorn, I'll go for the biggest popcorn there because I've just it's like a furnace you're shoveling coal into for me. It's like I'll just keep eating the popcorn until I sit there. It's like until it's gone.
I used to have like a rule that I should be able to get my first refill before the movie starts. So, but they won't do refills on the smaller sizes, so you're trying to get through this whole giant bucket. Yes,
it's like it's homework.
Do you do this? Do you know the straw trick?
No, I don't.
Oh, so have you been to a theater where they let you do your own butter?
No.
Okay, so you wouldn't. There are a few of them that let you do that, and you got to get an extra straw. You stick the straw down into the bucket, and you use that. You gotta. It's a little messy, but still, if it spills out of the straw, it's just spilling onto the top of the popcorn. So then once you get it, you have to then hold the button down as you're aiming it to try to get the butter through the straw, so you backfill, because you know that there are some people that are good and will fill it halfway, do the butter, and then fill it, and then do more butter. Some people don't care, and they just shovel all the popcorn in and do the butter on top. And then by the time you're a third of the way through the bucket, the butter is, you have whatever the butter is that's on. I mean, it's all quote unquote butter, but it's a different quote unquote butter, the dried on kind that comes in the machine. There's actually, like, I recently saw some place that mentioned it's like you can get a carton of it on Amazon. It's I forget what it had, some weird name. I would not have associated that with the popcorn, but hey, whatever it was. But yeah, so the straw, you got to get it, and you got to kind of back the straw out as it's filling up from kind of the bottom up, and then if you didn't spill, if you had good aim, then you got to take the straw and just get the whole top with the butter.
I don't know. I mean, I'm very iffy about butter because I think that's just like melted butter is a visual reminder of just like that there are very few situations where this would be considered healthy for you. It's just like on full display for me.
I cannot imagine any situation where it would be healthy, but you got to sometimes, you indulge. You don't eat McDonald's every day, but sometimes it's what you need. It's the right thing for the thing. So I think, if you're at home and you have your butter machine and you're doing that every night, then that may be a thing you want to cut back a little on. But I figure if you're going to the movie once a month or something, health is not the concern.
That brings me to another thing. You brought up McDonald's. I don't know if you've ever done this, but have you ever snuck food into the movies?
Food?
Yeah.
I don't think
because they're going to charge you
so.
It's going to be so expensive. That's the whole point, is that they get you in there. You can't bring in anything from the outside, but everything outside is dramatically cheaper.
Yeah, so there was my first introduction to that concept was actually at the time my friend was in first grade, and he had a peanut allergy. So there's like an exception or something where if you have a peanut allergy, you could bring in food, and that was what was done. And I was like, wait, why wouldn't they let you do that? And they're like, well, because that it's. I thought, oh, wow, okay, well, that's interesting. But food, well, part of it, no, because I want the movie theater popcorn, and then I also want the weird little rectangular boxes. So unless I could find a source for those specific things outside, I mean, the popcorn would be kind of cumbersome, I think. But I probably have brought something in, but I don't necessarily put that into the game plan ahead of time. I'm going to go out to the one place that sells the boxes and make sure I have that. I'll just overpay for one box of Bunch of Crunch. But
well, the reason I bring this up is because I'm not always in the mood for popcorn every time I go to the movies, and sometimes you're like, I want a little variety, so maybe I'll go to McDonald's, maybe I'll go to Burger King, and I'll just get my burger or whatever, and I'll wear a hoodie, not this particular hoodie, but something that's baggier, and like slide it in there and just bring it in. That's it.
Some people might say to Kevin, well, that's not the theaters. They make their money by selling the food, and they ought to make up. That's a concept of the business model that may have existed at one time. I'm not sure how true that is anymore when the popcorn is like $20 for a bucket.
Just
so
as much as the ticket.
Yeah, ethically, Kevin, I think we can give you a pass on that. And you're right, too. If they don't have the thing that you want, bring it in. That's on them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not hurting anyone, am I?
I don't think so.
Unless they're going to point out something dramatic saying, I couldn't afford the payment for my mother's nursing home because of you.
Yeah, but that's kind of, I think, a set of mental gymnastics somebody is going through to justify something else. It's wrong, not the actual action of bringing in food and keeping it to yourself. But, everybody's got their own opinion, and some people make it very, very apparent. To be continued in another episode.